Rolling. Fuck. How we doing, guys? How's nobody? Good? Alright, me too. Actually, I had a pretty mellow day at work. I wasn't too stupid. It's a holiday weekend, generally it tends to be stupid. Actually, I mean, there was some stupidity, but, we ain't gonna talk about that right now. We're gonna talk about some fucking movies. I think we're gonna talk about a film that I started watching last night because I was tired, and I wanted to do one of these, and I was like, I'll throw on a movie, I'll just go to sleep. And I was like expecting to fall asleep, and I ended up watching a good hour of this movie, and it was arduous to like fight falling asleep, but I was like very invested in the movie. So I think I'm gonna have to watch the other 2/3 of it. Just from, if the size didn't give it away, maybe this will. I got really, really invested in watching some Civil War history on YouTube lately. It's a fascinating fucking war. If I can remember to do it, I'll try and find the weird history video, because I like that channel rules. Shout out Weird History. You guys are fucking killing it. Fucking making some entertaining ass movies, videos. Well, now I have to do that. Fucking making entertaining ass content on YouTube. Whatever the fuck this shit's called. Podcasts with videos. Yeah, that shit. So, yeah, I got down on some weird history, and I watched like the waning days of the Civil War the other day, which was a fucking great one. Really fucking interesting. I want to spend some time traveling in the next couple of months. I'm thinking about going to Gettysburg, doing it like solo, because I don't think any of my friends are going to want to go, but I do want to go check that out, because it's a very interesting, pivotal part of American history, and I live 2 hours away from it, so I should go pay my respect, pay a little homage, and see if I see what I can learn from there. I look forward to that. But I want to go for a nice little tour. I got some time coming up. I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to take this podcast on the road. I don't know how, but we're going to make it work. Do it somehow. Do it out of some Stanhope style, out of some fucking hotel rooms. Should be fun. Yeah, it's going to be an exercise in keeping this thing going. But yeah, anyway, back to weird history. So I was watching the waning days of the Civil War, and I was listening to the bit about Appomattox Courthouse, and how like Robert E. Lee and General Grant were like talking to each other via like message, like they were sending messages to each other. They were kind of both like posturing each other, but ultimately like Grant was just kind of like, all right, bring it, dummy. And then before he sent the message, he called for reinforcements to come and like cut off Lee's army. Because they had like railroad lines and shit in Virginia, and the regiment that they were in needed the access to these fucking supply lines to basically keep their war effort going, because their soldiers were like pretty beat up and pretty far from home at this point, and weren't in the greatest of fucking moods. So after getting your dick kicked in for like 2 weeks straight, several years straight, honestly, but a couple weeks, real arduous fighting, where there's kind of like this nice little ceasefire going on. Not ceasefire. I'm fucking this up. I'm not a historian. I describe things like a fucking learned idiot sometimes, hence this podcast. But I do have an appreciation for it. But yeah, they were lobbing shots at each other, and then someone sent a message over there, and they needed like their supply lines. But the Union Army like kind of flanked them and took the supply lines out of commish, so they couldn't get any of the supplies they needed. And they were like, all right, we're fucked. We give up. Surrendered. There was no conditions on it, but then they amended that, because like it's like unconditional surrender. So like both sides go over. Apparently they caught Grant so off guard that he was like he had to like scramble to get a uniform, which is kind of funny, because like they had all these people, like it was like one of the most documented things like in history at the moment. And they had all these people that were like doing like etchings of it, and they were like purposely trying to make fucking Grant look a little bit better, but like he's like wearing someone else's jacket, and something just looks shabby as fuck. He was told like 20 minutes before he had to get there. It's pretty cool. It's like pretty nice like tidbit of history. I was like really dorking out on that. I just found it funny too that it's like these two generals that are like we kind of want to like end the mutual bloodshed, even though we've just been like taking pot shots at each other for the whole last week. It's kind of amusing. Plus it like kind of shows like the brutality of what they were saying, because it's like ultimately a civil war is you're killing your own citizens, and it sucks. It's not like it's not a good thing. I'm sure they were pretty like not happy with the way that shit was going up until that point. So anyway, that was fascinating. If I haven't given it away already, because I'm gonna quit talking about shit I don't know well enough. I'm watching Dances with Wolves, the Kevin Costner film from 1990. I watched like a good hour of it last night. I was like, fuck, I'm hooked. I fell asleep though. So I got an hour, or 2 hours of it left to go. But I'm excited about this one. This was a film that I was seeing like maybe 2 parts of. I know Ian actually at work today reminded me that they show this to you in high school. I forget what scene they showed you, but I haven't seen anything that looks like real familiar yet. So I'm assuming that when I see it, I know there's like a scene where he dances around a fire all fucking crazy too, and then the wolf's looking at him. Then like I might be completely disconnecting those 2 parts, but whatever. I'm having fun with it so far. I do like the opening little sequence there was. I was not expecting that. I was just kind of expecting it to start kind of like the way I've been watching a lot of like movies that are very like heavily tied to realism, and this is like kind of that territory we're getting into where it's not quite Gabriel Garcia Marquez, but it is like mystical realism to a certain extent. I know that much about the movie. It's not like a Civil War movie, but it does take place during the Civil War, so I get it. But I enjoy the atmosphere of like what they've set up so far. In the first like hour, it's just been the tits, so I'm pretty fucking pumped on it. I know, and then I've been listening to Shane Gillis's podcast, Matt and Shane Secret podcast, and he knows a lot about the Native Americans. I took one course in college about Native Americans. I like there's such a broad thing. It's like comparing like myself, born and raised in New Jersey. I'm pretty worldly, like, fucking give myself a fucking round of applause. But I mean, like, I went to college. I lived in a couple places around the country. I kind of know my flavors of people, and like, Jersey, we might be abrasive, but at least like we're honest. We tell people how it is, and like you can tell when they're full of shit from a mile away. But like, I've lived in so many other fucking places where it's kind of like, everybody's got their own little faults, but I kind of understand that that's the same with like the Native Americans. They're fucking diverse people. I mean, they are unified under, being natives, but there's some that committed atrocities, and then there's some that were absolutely taken advantage of, like, but across the board, they were here first, and, whatever, for what it's worth, they did their part in the Civil War on both sides. And also, I read a lot about the Lakota in college. The Lakota are a fascinating tribe because they're very spiritual. They're very, they are like fucking amazing horsemen, because they were like all the way out in fucking Midwest, but like the plains, like of like, I guess like Montana and like Idaho and, or maybe not Idaho, maybe not that far west, like North Dakota, the Dakotas or whatever. But yeah, they were like all the way out there. And one thing I don't like this because I think it's like a shitty tactic, but it is kind of interesting. And it's like, hey, you guys kind of like, you started it, and the U.S. like kind of came in and had to do it. But it was because this tribe specifically created a situation where they kept like attacking the U.S. cavalry, and then they would attack the U.S. cavalry, get them all pissed off, get the cavalry to chase them, and then go up across the border into Canada. So then the Canadian, and they were already picking on these like Canadian fur trappers for one reason or another, and the French Canadians hated them. And like then the U.S. cavalry was rolling west, and the fucking Canadians were like, "Yeah, Sacre Bleu, could you do something about these the shitheads?" The Tatomere. I don't fucking know. Fucking French. No, that's not the right one. There we go. French just stinks. Not rolling that fucking character out anytime soon. I don't know why I'm getting so angry. I'm having a good time. But yeah, the Lakota did that. I liked, I've been watching a lot of that Skinwalker Ranch, like stuff on that on YouTube. And I watched that Jeremy Corbell documentary on Skinwalker Ranch. It's on Hulu. Very good movie. Worth checking out. They were talking about the Ute, I think. Ute, maybe. UTE is, I believe, the name of the tribe. But yeah, they apparently cursed the land to all that inhabit it, and it's causing some real fucking crazy paranormal shit out there. But yeah, I they're an interesting subject, and I like hearing about them. And I grew up in a place called Tuckahoe, which is like a kind of moss. Very rich Native American Lenape is the tribe that we have around here. They're pretty cool people. We got to meet them a couple of times, when I was in grade school. Very nice people, very, very interesting. And I like why they settled here too. They were like, yeah, we like the pines. Yeah, fucking A right. So yeah, I think that's enough of me rambling about this. So I'm going to watch this, and hopefully on the back end I have something more intelligent to say about this other than fucking Kevin Costner's a fucking dreamboat. And I really like the horses, too. The horses, I think, are what sold me. Horses are like big dogs. I'm a fan of dogs, but like the horses I've met are pretty fucking cool. I know they can kick you, but, whatever. All right, I digress. Without further ado, we're watching the rest of Dances with Wolves. Just heard someone else on another podcast talk about ambient noise and how you're supposed to let the room kind of warm up when you're doing this. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I don't know. I like the idea of that. So it's just like a nice quiet. And we're back. Yeah. Fucking man, I smoked so much fucking weed. It took me 3 fucking sittings to get through Dances with Wolves, but it was a fucking awesome movie. That was a great one. Give yourselves a round of applause. Whoever the fuck Kevin Costner, and I forget the fucking chick's name already. But fuck. All right. Yeah. So that was all right. It was good. It was really good. I appreciate the visual elements carrying the film more than anything else. I think that's my opinion, because it is a rather slow story. It's a very dry story too. I don't really care about the Kevin Costner love thing. It doesn't feel shoehorned in. It does feel like kind of organic, but it's very convenient, and it's like a nice way to pad out the runtime and also kind of bring a more eclectic crowd to it. So like that, I think, is like a little fucking, that's like probably my only, like, what I would say is like shortcomings, the length and like how much crap they tried to like put in there to make it like more broader, give it more broad appeal. But yeah, other than that, fucking fantastic. I like that, even like, jumping off on that, I do like that you get to kind of, you really do get to know the natives, like the native characters. You get to know some of the, the white folk too pretty well, even though like their interactions are more brief and direct, whereas like the natives do kind of speak a lot in hyperbole, and it's not like to a detriment. It's just like they kind of arrive at the same conclusions the way people arrive at, but like slower. But like it's like a more calculated thing, and it makes sense in the context of the film. But I do like that they have these like backwards ass traditions. Like they gamble on horse slinging, I think is what they were fucking calling it. You got to trade somebody for your shit. If you get married in the eyes of the native, in the Sioux culture. They're supposed to be the Sioux Nation, I believe. You got to bang your wife in the teepee in front of the whole fucking tribe, which is fine. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. It was a fun one though. Like even like the little bits of like the stuff that does feel rather long-winded. It's it's at least entertaining. It's at least captivating. It's an interesting story. A little too more. That's the detriment, I would say, is like they are very historically accurate, but they kind of give up about an hour or about like 2 hours and 30 minutes in on trying to keep it like above the belt with the message, and it's like, yeah, he's the conquistador here, like you don't have to fucking say it. But he goes back to the tribe, and then the tribe kind of peters out, because they all have to surrender to the cavalry. But we don't see that happen. We kind of keep it punctuated on a high note, or at least like as high of a note as you can. But I liked it. Let's talk about what I did like. Let's talk about the film from a technical standpoint for a second. I was describing this to one of my coworkers the other day, who actually, he's a real good fucking friend of mine, and he loves movies as well. His name's Nick. Shout out Nick. And Nick and I were talking about this film, and he just I was like kind of pointing out, I'm like, yeah, I really like the panoramic. They probably, I'm not entirely sure, this is unverified, this is pure speculation, but it looks like they use like panoramic lenses, like high speed it's a high light. Yeah, it's like high exposure fucking, it's like not like a low light lens, but it's like a lens that it takes in a lot of the fucking light. It gives you like you can use it like a real broad frame, like so you can like run like real thick celluloid, like 72 millimeter celluloid through the fucking camera, and give you these like real like Nat Geo-esque like fucking sweeping vistas. And they use that very fucking well, and it's like they utilize the space of not only like the plains, but kind of like the little towns that you start out the film in, and like the Civil War battle, there was a lot used there too. And I very much liked it, because then later on you get the kind of like the juxtaposition of like where Kevin Costner's character came from, John Dunbar. You get like the kind of the juxtaposition of where he came from, which is like this real epic like Civil War battle where he's a wounded soldier that rides his horse like clean through the fucking battlefield. doesn't get shot, and then does it again, doesn't get shot again, but like, it initiates like the battle to kind of commence and like quit being like, a bunch of fucking pot shot pussies. I don't know. I have no fucking combat experience. I'm sure it's fucking terrifying. But yeah, that like you get that, and then it's like juxtaposed with them like both fighting the Pawnee later in the film, and also like the buffalo. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the way that it was presented visually, because you get like so much to take in each like kind of like, there are these like long, like very pregnant shots that they use of just the plains and like the openness, and it's supposed to give you this feeling of I guess just like he's isolated, so this is where he's supposed to be, so you're supposed to get like the scope of his isolation, but also like when it's occupied by other stuff, it doesn't make it feel like quite so vacant, but it does still give you this illusion of like, oh, there's like so much more out there, and it's like it's like not it's almost like not like like your brain can't comprehend just how much of like the vista there is. And I like that. I don't know what ultimately is like matte painting or animation, because it was 1990. I don't think they were really heavily relying on animation. I know the bulk of this is just either practical effects, or just real shit, like they use real herds of horses and stuff, and it shows, and that production value is absolutely complemented, I guess, complementary, maybe, of the visual aspects of everything. And like I really did enjoy that you just get this like very we're gonna not only like use these frames to kind of give you a nice setting, a nice like background, for these events to take place, but we're going to properly utilize the equipment we have at our disposal, as well as the space, and like the magnitude of the production definitely match the magnitude of the cinematography. You don't really get that anymore. That's like one thing that really stands out in this film is 1990, and like that was right on the edge of Jurassic Park. Like I think Jurassic Park's like 2-3 years later, and they were like the first one where like major CGI was used. But like, mind you, and I know Red Letter Media says this constantly, it's like a fucking mantra for them, but they're like, yeah, using a hybridization of like practical effects and animation is the ideal way to utilize CGI. But now we live in an era where everything is just fucking green screened, and it doesn't fucking matter. It's like, no matter how fucking interesting the movie is, if you're just gonna like digitally de-age fucking someone and make that the emphasis of like the production, then it's just like, I don't know, I feel like gypped. I feel cheated. Like, I don't know. I try not to lament too much on like what I did, because I did such an insignificant amount of fucking shit in the in the film industry when I did work in there. But the few productions I did work on, and like hearing like how the running joke was, yeah, we're not doing anything today, they're gonna CGI it, they're just gonna green screen it. It just it kind of gives you this like defeated sense, because now I have under my belt, like I see what it takes to make the fucking facade of the Quick Stop, in New Orleans, and like how there's just like so much that goes into it, and just gets it to like not only looking like the Quick Stop, but looking like the Quick Stop present day, like how it's aged, like where the fucking like the weathering is like on stuff, like what's around it, like you got to match the fucking shrubbery, just shit like that. And it's one of those like, fuck man, like I feel like, when you have these Marvel movies, it's almost like you're doing a disservice to like the people that made films like Dances with Wolves, because they did take such a fucking like, it made such strenuous efforts to get this fucking film to look the way it does. And I don't know, like it really does end on a fucking down note. It's not really the most optimistic or uplifting of stories, but it is a damn good story, and I really did enjoy it. But just with what I know and what I see in this film, the dedication, man, my teeth are whistling. Fucking like, you see the dedication of it, and it just makes me upset that we live in an era where people would rather pay, fucking $150 for a viewing experience of the Marvel Cinematic Universe at your local IMAX theater. It's like, you're not even using IMAX correctly. Like, what the fuck? Why is this where film is now? Let's all just take a minute to appreciate Dances with Wolves. I want to jump onto something else too. But while I'm on this, I want to say the last movie I saw in IMAX was Dunkirk. And I'm not a huge Christopher Nolan film, and I think that is one of his flatter films. I don't really like him. I think Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy, can suck a fucking box of dicks. Heath Ledger, you fucking overdosed. Yeah, that's the only reason anybody remembers it, and they didn't just get written off as comic book fucking crap. And everybody continued on with their lives, and I think it's because of that it caught so much attention, that nerd culture amplified the way it does. I do like the theory, though, that 4chan has about women weren't getting enough attention paid to them in 2007, and they kind of like realized that we're competing with the internet now. Well, what do the men that we normally like? They have a nerdy side. Let's see if I can exploit that. And it was like, because of the Big Bang Theory coming on the air and realizing like, oh, I could be something that lustful nerds lust after. I get it, and they kind of put it together, and it's because of the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory is what like kind of springboarded nerd culture into the zeitgeist, like, is back in the day. And it's another thing too, where it's like, I'm not talking about like actual fucking nerds like me, where I have a solo podcast discussing fucking Come and See, or like fucking Soviet era propaganda, or just general fucking dumb, like this is what nerds actually do. This is what like, I can't get a fucking date. I read fucking crime statistics online. I play poker poorly. I fucking got my dick kicked in, by the way, today. Fucking asshole. Looked like fucking fat Phil Hellmuth wearing fucking Velcro sandals. Oh, he caught a fucking flush on the river, and it pissed me the fuck off. But, that's what you get for playing with drunk guys. But yeah, this is what actual nerds are. Like, I am an actual nerd. I don't listen to music that was made after 1987. Well, Operation 1992. Fuck it. When did come? Fuck, I'm already fucking. Oops, that one. Yeah, this is just getting sad. But like, there's just an exploitative nature of like all of these like films that just rely so heavily on fucking CGI, and like or just the bastardization of the reason that IMAX exists. I don't respect it, and I don't appreciate it. I want movies like Dances with Wolves. Make the fucking effort. And I did kind of like, and like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and when I say a huge Star Wars fan, episode 4, 5, and 6, that's Star Wars. Everything else is money-grabbing bullshit, and I want to get this tattoo I have fucking erased off my body because of just what I said prior to this, but also, I don't like Disney, and I don't want them to have a reason to ever come at me for money. So, fuck them, and you and your satanic fucking devil filmmaking practices, Disney, go fuck yourselves. But what I like is like when people actually like make a conscious, dedicated effort to like try to do something. And one of those things that gave me a little smattering of hope was when I heard that they were shooting some of the new Star Wars films with the old original lenses that they used in the first one. Now, first off, you know anything about Star Wars, you know that the lenses they used weren't exactly great for fluorescent lighting, and I think they realized that pretty early on because all the film like looked blown out and green because they used a higher speed film stock, I think, than the lenses were supposed to accommodate for indoor lighting. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there are two kinds of film stock that you use. There's what's called D, and then there's what's called T. The D stands for daylight. The T stands for tungsten. That means tungsten is the luminescent element in a light bulb. It's like the metal, tungsten metal, and they put it in there, and that's what they create a monofilament, and the filament is connected at 2 points, and alternating current goes through it, and that gives you the flicker effect. So I think to counteract the flicker effect that you get from using, I forget if it was the wrong film or the wrong fucking lenses, but I remember it was one. But yeah, all the original cuts of Star Wars, until they digitally remastered it in the 90s, there was like the first couple of scenes where they're in the fucking space ship, the Princess Leia's fucking charter cruise thing that they get kidnapped on. They all look fucking green. So I'm sure that somewhere in they've made improvements on like what they did, and they probably purchased the correct film and used like the correct dampening elements to make it look correct, but like it is kind of a motherfucker to replicate that shit, and like, matching the original light hues and all that other stuff. Like, I'm sure they realized what an arduous task it is, and then a lot of that budget went into marketing and making fucking John Boyega not on the poster in China for obvious reasons, and it's because they are soulless. It's like, what I was getting at was I liked that like approach that like, oh yeah, we're going to try and replicate the original and do something, like there's going to be practical effects used, and we're going to be, utilizing some of the original characters, like with the actors and actresses and stuff. R.I.P. Carrie Fisher. Went out on fucking top too, man. Carrie Fisher rules. What a fucking sweetheart. She's just doing her thing. Fucking took a bunch of fucking ecstasy and died. Oof, sucks. But Carrie Fisher, you are a fucking legend. You're one of the reasons that I love Star Wars. Fucking Harrison Ford too. Harrison Ford hates Star Wars fans, and I love him for that because I hate him too. Oh my god, Madon, they fucking suck. But yeah, I like when a film actually makes the conscious effort to try and do something that goes above and beyond just, we could green screen it and cut it, save a few bucks. Fucking looking at you, Scorsese. But, Dances with Wolves. Where was I going with all this? I got 5 more minutes. Let's talk about it a little bit more. I didn't even bother Googling to look up the Lakota shit, because I know they speak Lakota, and I'm sure the Lakota tribe were part of the Sioux Nation, but they are Sioux, and they were fighting with the Pawnee. And, I didn't bother looking all that up. I just, I do kind of like when the backdrop of the film, like I said, is like so good, and then the story is so good that I can just completely overlook the bullshit nonsense that this film has. And this film has a lot of bullshit nonsense. It's not like bad. Like all the I'm not talking about like the Native American stuff. I fucking, I just like it's a little bit convenient with the way that like, oh yeah, we're gonna just like completely paint them as the cool people, and then justify it in the way of like, oh well, they're fighting directly, they're fighting with their women and their children at their backs, like they have something more to fight for. So there's like this moral element to it, when like, if you looked at the scope of things, they were involved in like a shitload of wars with other Native American tribes, where they would just do like heinous, atrocious things to each other. Like rape, fucking behead children or scalp children, like kill them though. Fucking like burn villages down and leave it to the last man, and then tell him to go to the next tribe over and tell them what they did. Just to instill fear in like their own, and then like there was no like unifying between them, because they were so like they were so like deeply rooted in these conflicts for like very different. And I would say arbitrary, but that's not like the right way to put it, because it is like I will give them credit. They do like they have religious amnesty when it comes to this, like these conflicts. Like I understand that. It's like why the fucking war in the Middle East doesn't work. These tensions between like certain castes of Muslim and like other peripheral religions, and like they all have like religious investment in politics, so like regions kind of bicker about stuff, and then it boils over into a small isolated conflict, and then one tribe wins and the other tribe has to go home with their tail between their legs. Like I get it, like I totally comprehend that, but like you can't just break the rules at will. Like to there, I don't know what, I think it was some fucking thing on FX or HBO, I can't remember which, but there's like this movie clip that was going around on Facebook a few years ago about how like Native Americans only claim like the religious aspect when it's like convenient for them. Otherwise they're like ruthless warriors. And it's like, it's very true, but you got to take that notion with a huge grain of salt. It's like you got a fucking war that they had nothing to do with going on, and that war is slowly like infringing on their land. And like, I mean, I'm not talking about like a couple acres, I'm talking about like states worth of land, like the fucking Dakotas, everything in the northern Midwest. Like that's pretty that's a large chunk of fucking territory. And since they kind of have their whole, I don't know, like culture and livelihood based around like transportation, slaughter of certain wild animals that occupy these areas, yeah, the infringement does make fucking sense why they'd be pissed off about it. But all I was trying to get at is like, I don't want this to become like a revisionist history podcast where I'm so gaga over how good the movie was, I don't like actually like look up the nuts and bolts and make sure it's like authentic. Like this is one of like, it conveniently omits a lot of fucking stuff that would probably like, there's a reason it's still around today. Nobody's like really called it out. It's a fucking racist movie because Kevin Costner just assumes that the Native Americans want him to be part of their culture by just they fucking paint him in a good enough light where they knew down the road people would probably find this pretty middle of the ground. So I get that, but like, do your homework. Read up on the Lakota Indians. They're fascinating people. Like Native Americans are a fascinating subject. Like I highly recommend it. Like I said, the Lenape are fucking interesting. Why don't you start there and then work your way to Lakota? Same letter, just got to read it down a few more. But yeah, I think that's enough for me. Thank you for listening, and watch fucking Dances with Wolves. 10 out of fucking 10. Love that fucking movie.